Hello, welcome back. Another pre-season preview for you and another Premier League team. But before we get into it, my name is Sam, and joining me as always is my ever-present podcasting partner, Alex. How's it going,
mate? These pre-season whatevers are killing me before we started.
I know
notes I've been taking. I've got names on here I never thought I'd see.
But you know, we've got
whatever.
We've got a big old new intro as well. We're big boys now.
New intro, yeah, I know. Yeah. Well, I mean, we would have already done this like yesterday but whatever, but, it's fine. Yeah.
We're contractually obliged to like do this in the first 5 or so anyway. So
I know. But yeah, no, I love the intro. It's good to be back, and to be honest, I've missed the football. So
yeah, we've all missed the football. Yeah, so Everton today. We're on the blue side of Merseyside, and joining us is TikTok personality. That's how I found him anyway. Kieran, Rants, how you doing, mate?
I'm doing well. Interesting way to describe me, but of course I do TikTok, you know what I mean? So
how would you describe yourself, man? Go on.
Just a regular guy, you know what I mean?
Just a regular guy.
Just a regular guy.
Your friendly neighbourhood Spider-Man.
Yeah, there we are. Talking absolute waffle about Everton, you know what I mean? That's how I've described me. But no, thanks for having me on, and I'm actually excited to talk about Everton for the first time in quite a while, because I think there's a lot of stuff to talk about, to say the very least.
Yeah, let's start there, because I've got a little prompt by you, which I want you to finish my sentence. For Everton, last season was
humbling.
Yeah, nice.
Honestly, it was. Look, I think under Carlo, I think we've got to take it back to Carlo. I think that's where we've got to start. Under Carlo, we always got sold an ambition where we'd come back, we'd be in Europe, the team would finally, it'd all come together, and it'd be this amazing team that would go on to win titles and trebles and all this. But seriously, it wasn't that. I mean, Carlo finished 10th, and looking back, that was absolutely remarkable. How we got 10th with this team was quite shocking, to be fair. I know we have Rodriguez and a few other players that have now left, but it was remarkable what he did. Benitez comes in, absolutely awful appointment. And really, it was written in the stars, wasn't it? You know what I mean? And I think, especially me as well, I got so humbled throughout the whole season. Like every single month, I was like, no, we're going to turn this around. We're not going to battle in relegation. At first I was like, okay, so we're not going to challenge for Europe, but we're going to get mid-table. Okay, we're not going to get mid-table, but we're not going to be getting in we're not going to be relegated, are we? And it really got up to the point where, we got Frank Lampard in, the hope sort of came back, and we just about scraped it. But really just humbling. And now I think we all know our place now. You know what I mean? And that's a sad thing to actually admit is, when you talk about your own club and you're saying, I'm actually going to admit we're not as good as I think we are, and we're actually really, we're in absolute trouble. And we face a threat of being relegated yet again this year. It's sad to say. You know what I mean? It really is sad to talk about.
So you're thinking you'll get you're thinking you're in a bit of trouble this year.
I was Frank Lampard's biggest fan. I think I was the first guy anywhere to say Frank Lampard, I want him in. I think it was the exact date was like the 16th of January. I'm running with this. I am Frank Lampard's biggest fan. I think he's fantastic. You know what I mean? I'm not going after the manager, but what I am going after is these players. These players are not good enough. And I don't think we're going to get relegated, because I feel like when we're looking at the positive and, positivity, negativity, I'm more optimistic. You know what I mean? I'm more on that positive side of like, okay, we're going to get some results here and there. But I think there's a genuine threat we could be facing relegation this year. I think we'll just about scrape 15th or 16th, because what teams are worse than us? Bar the three that have just came up, where like everyone's got quality over us.
Southampton probably could be in and around that area.
Yeah,
I'm struggling I can't remember who's come up.
I think with all due respect, Forest who just come up look a better side.
Yeah,
with all due respect, they do. I think the market has really made the difference there. I mean, Forest has spent a lot, but I mean, Everton have shipped out Richarlison and not really brought anybody in.
Yeah,
they've got. I think Rondon started yesterday or the day before, didn't he? In the pre-season friendly. I mean, I don't know about that as a backup striker, but
do you see James Tarkowski showing up that defence though?
What I will say about James Tarkowski is he has. I think it was the game against Arsenal, and I know we lost 2-0, so we got to take it with a bit of grain of salt, but he was a level with every other defender. So I think James Tarkowski does big up the team. I think Patterson's looked good. I think Michaelenko's looked good as well. So these signings that have came in throughout the past, 3-4 months, obviously in the January and the summer window, have looked decent. But as you said, then Richarlison, I mean, we sold him for 60 million with the idea that we're going to go and sign a Cornet or someone like that for 20, 30, and nothing's happening. You know, we went in for Cornet. We said, oh, do you want a loan move? So we'll loan you in for a year. We won't pay you any money, Burnley. You know what I mean? And then we went in again. Oh yeah, we'll give you 5 million and then 20 million next year. How do you find that? Like, of course they're not going to accept it. You know, we're just doing stupid business for players that we should just be snapping up like that. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's not looking good. I'm not going to lie. I can't really find any positives. I think what we'll say though, Southampton look worse. Yeah. Bournemouth, Fulham look worse. I'd argue Forest. I'm going to be a bit biased. I think Forest will do worse than us, and then maybe a Brentford will do worse. But really, I mean, it's hard, isn't it? You know what I mean? It's hard to say who we're better than.
I think in your case, for Everton's case, I think it's going to be the fact of there are teams in this league that are worse than us. Not a case that we're better than them, but they are just worse than us, if that makes any sense to you.
Over 38 and it was the games.
Case. Yeah, it's over 38 games. They're just going to lose more games than we are. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you can pick your points up against those teams, I mean, it's pretty sad that we're talking about this before the season even kicked off, isn't it? But, you know.
I'm getting flashbacks to the Burnley preview last year.
Yeah, I know.
where roughly would you be happy with as a finish? Genuinely quite happy.
Realistic, but happy.
15th, 16th, anywhere above that. This is the sad thing,
mental,
right?
Isn't it? Everton.
And, you know, this is why I say the word humble is the greatest word I think we can say about last season. I can't expect anything more out of this team. Now, I think I'm quite nice to Frank Lampard, I think, because obviously I backed him from the very start. So I'm not going to hone in on him. And I know people have their reservations about Lampard. How good is he tactically? You know, will he actually be able to keep Everton up? But from what I've seen from Lampard, he's brought in, he understands what it means to be an Evertonian. You know, even though he's from down south, he is a Londoner. You know, he's at Chelsea for God knows how long. He's really sort of immersed himself into our culture and knows what it means to be an Everton fan. And that's what I like most about Frank Lampard. And that's what I think we will need to actually have that sort of, you know, be able to get those 40 points next season, is to actually, you know, be able to stay up. Frank Lampard will bring that sort of passion and that sort of standards that we need to stay up. And the signings he made, Tarkowski's look brilliant. I'm not going to lie, I'm not free. It's brilliant business. Really, the problem lies at Everton is the board. They need to spend the money, and they're not spending the money. And simply put, if Lampard got the players he wanted to, we'd be looking at 11th or 12th, I think. I really do. But when we're stuck with these players who have no backbone, don't want to fight, are just there for a paycheck, I mean, these players are going to end up in the relegation battle like they were last year. But unlike last year, we won't have Richarlison, you know, to sort of bail us out. So it's a hard one, man. And I hate saying it about Everton, because I was going into last year saying, you know what, we could push on for Europe. It's so fluid though. Like, you know, the Europe, you know, like from 8th to 15th, it's so fluid. And it's genuinely all we need is 3 players to get up to that mark. I think that's for any team. So we'll see if we do any business. It could all change, really.
Who would you bring in if you were, well, have you got a question, Sam? Or
no, go on. That was literally my
next halfway question. Well, there we are then. Who would you bring in then? Those 3, you mentioned the 3 players. Who would you bring in to, you know, bolster that, to take you to the dizzying heights of 12th or 11th even?
Well, I think, you know what, I actually did a video on this today. I did 4 players, but the 4th one was Brozier, and that's sort of a luxury item, you know what I mean? He's sort of whatever. But I did 3 players that I identified which were realistic within our sort of pay grade and would come to Everton. I didn't scout them, you know what I mean? I just realised how sort of bourgeois I sound there, you know what I mean? I identified them, I was scouting them personally. But no, the players I looked at, Cornet was the biggest one. £17.5 million release clause. You've got to be buying him, man. He got 9 goals last year, around 2,000 minutes, I think it was, at Burnley. Fantastic numbers there. And when you actually watch him, just the eye test, on the ball, he's fantastic. He knows what exactly to do. So he's the Richarlison replacement, I'd like to say. Then there's 2 other players. Gibbs White, which I think is a bit of a rogue shout, because he was at Sheffield United last year. He was phenomenal there. Obviously, they were in the Championship, so you got to sort of, you know, read between the lines and whatnot. You got to sort of see, you know, the step up is quite big, isn't it, from the Championship to the Premier League? So how would he actually adapt? But I think Gibbs White is phenomenal. He's young. He's an English talent. I saw him in the friendly against, was it Real Sociedad or someone like that? You know, there was a Spanish team. Wolves were playing. 2 days ago.
I think it might have been, actually. I was just doing their notes, so I think it could well have been them.
Whatever Spanish team it was, he looked like he was phenomenal in that game, and he was there was a fight that broke out, and he was the first one there, ready to get involved, ready to be in the action. That's the sort of player I want, someone who's passionate and ready to put their body on the line. And then the other one was Loftus-Cheek, who I think he's not being. I don't think Chelsea are really his biggest fan. I think he'd go out for 10, 15 million probably. I think it'd be a very cheap deal. And I think with Loftus-Cheek, he's not been given the chance yet to really flourish and, be the player that we all thought he would be. So those are the three players I would say. On top of that, Brozier on loan, maybe, if they would let us have him. But I know Chelsea are having sort of a bit unsteady at the moment, isn't it? With what's going on with their team and sort of the imbalance going on there. So I don't know whether we'd get Brozier, but those are the three players. Cornet is a must, Gibbs White, and Loftus-Cheek.
Interesting. Those are
eyes lit up, but lost Loftus-Cheek, because we've had him down.
Well,
down
Gibbs
the Swans.
White. Gibbs White,
sorry, Gibbs White, not Loftus-Cheek.
I can tell you now, Kieran, Morgan Gibbs White is different bit of best
quality. He is
a
quality.
Fantastic player. We saw him. He was only here about 6 months, wasn't he? Down at Swansea.
He wasn't here long, and he played very few games, but he was so good on the ball. Couldn't touch him.
I think because he got injured and got recalled back to Wolves in January, and I think if he'd stayed fit and stayed with us, we got playoffs that year, and I think we might have finished a bit higher as well.
But there we are. You could well end up at Everton and take you all the way to 10th.
Well, I mean, those targets I identified. Jesus, God. Those players overall would cost around 50 million. I think Gibbs White 25, 30, Cornet around 17.5, and Loftus-Cheek, take it as you will, maybe.
I think he'd be a steal. Million. I do think Loftus-Cheek could be a steal because you've got to remember the board that have come, like the new owners are coming to Chelsea. Mm-hmm. It's not their money that they're spending. They're spending Roman's money, really, essentially, because he brought the players in. So it makes no difference. They're not going to lose anything.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think Frank can do some business, but no one knows. We'll get Ross Barkley, we'll get Gilmore, and then we'll get someone else. And it's like, well, we've got these players here where if this was Everton of 3 years ago, I think with the right team, the right scouting team, we would have got these three players, you know what I mean? Because Mashore, it is the problem at Everton that I think maybe people who aren't Everton fans don't understand. Mashore has the money and he wants to spend, but he's been blocked from spending. He spent too much of it. And the business we've done is so poor that I think our net spend is like minus 200 million. And when you've got something like that for your FFP, you can't spend any more. That's why we spent 1 million last year. I'm surprised at how much we spent in January. I really don't know where we got that money from. Maybe the Digne stuff sort of balanced it out. But yeah, it's just Mashore's got the money. He's just not allowed to. So in theory, I think we could break FFP, but then we run the risk of if we break FFP and then get relegated, then you're looking at a situation where you could be going into not just Championship, but League Two. You know what I mean? Non-league, potentially. It really could spiral on from there.
God, that's mental. I didn't think we'd be talking about non-league in an preview.
Neither did
that's
I,
one thing I didn't think we'd be talking about. So we've covered the players you want to bring in. If no more business was done, can you pick like 2 or 3 players, key players? Give me 2 key players and 1 underrated, like an unsung hero.
Key players. Okay. Pickford in goal. Pickford's. I love Pickford. I think Pickford's one of my favourite players, so I'd put him as key player. I think he kept us up last year single-handedly. Not single-handedly, but with Richarlison, him and unsung hero probably Gordon. And I'm trying to think of another key player because I genuinely look at that team. I don't know who it is. It was Richarlison, but Gordon is not putting up the numbers where he is a key player. You know, Gordon should not be expected to be a key player, though. That's what I've got to state now. Is Gordon is an unsung hero because he's probably got, I think he's got 5 goals, maybe not even that. Like very low goals and assists. You know what I mean? Like actual output is low, but him actually driving the ball forward, getting the ball in the box, getting the ball in where we want it, he's great at that. So he's an unsung hero in that way. But I don't think there's any other key players but Pickford in that team. I'd sell every single one of those players. Normally, I'm a big fan of Godfrey, and normally I'd say like Godfrey is fantastic, and you know he really can want to be a player. But I've watched him this pre-season; he's really looked shaky, so I can't say he's a key player in this team anymore.
Oh, Only one key player. He'd
I'm
sell
not-
them all. He'd sell them all, Al. All
This
of
is
I
them.
know, the
Honestly-
whole squad.
honestly,
Balance
if-
the box.
This is the thing, Everton. I would sell every single okay, obviously, maybe you'd keep Gray for rotation or whatever, but genuinely, if any of those players left, well, Pickford, Gordon, and I would put Godfrey in there because I've got a bit of a bias to him because I just think he's a quality defender for some reason. That's just something I'm going to run with. Every other player though in that team you could sell, and I wouldn't be bothered about.
Not even Andre Gomez. To me, I don't know.
No,
I see him in that team, and I don't know whether he makes some tick,
Surely
but
not.
no, genuinely, I don't know whether it's because I had him in my fantasy Premier League and he was picking me up a few points now and again.
Mate,
But,
everything. You know what though? I think if you want to take a bit of a positive view on it, there are some players there which will do well next year. Patterson, get him in your FPL, 4 million. He'll get a few assists here and there. Michaelenko's looked good. Get Bam in if he can stay fit. He could be seen as a new signing. So there are good players in there. That could do so. There are some unsung heroes in there, but you need key players, not unsung heroes. You know what I mean? You need these boys who are going to come in with a big personality and go, "This is exactly what we expect. We're Everton Football Club. We need to be up there with the big boys." And only Pickford really does that for me. I think James Tarkowski could, but it's obviously only played 2-3 games at the moment, so I can't really say whether he'll be a key player or not.
Do you think Frank Lampard will still be Everton manager come May?
Cracking question.
No, I'm going to give Frank Lampard 2 years, or maybe even 3. I'm all for Frank Lampard getting as much time as possible. I think it's not his fault; it's the players' fault. And if we sack Frank Lampard halfway through the season, we've doomed ourselves yet again. And we're in this position where we're going to have to just sort of get a new manager balance. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get Sam Allardyce in if we sack him. Knowing our boards, knowing the stupid decisions made, knowing the way Mashori thinks about the club. Mashori thinks he's above everyone else. You know what I mean? Mashori thinks our club is better than everyone else. And there is absolutely no explanation for why we should be in this relegation battle. That's the sort of vibe I get off of it. And I would not be surprised if Frank Lampard is sacked and I'm sitting here going, what have we done here? I'm going to give Frank 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4 years maybe. But I think Mashori's only going to give him 1 year and he's got to deliver straight away. So I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't.
I can't, when you said you're going to he'd get sacked, the first name that came to my mind was Sam Allardyce. And I can't work out why. Yeah, exactly. Again, Sam Allardyce, the typical ones. And I can't work out why Everton would do that. To me, it makes more sense to give Lampard time.
Hopefully, this is the thing. I hope they give him time, and I hope that I want him in.
Realistically, it's just not going to happen, is it? It's just not going to happen.
I thought the same about. Well, obviously, Carlo left on his own will, but I think Mashori is very quick to pull the trigger. And funnily enough, the only manager he wasn't quick to pull the trigger on was Benitez. And the only time he wasn't quick on pulling the trigger, it actually made things worse because Benitez was making things worse by the day. If he would have just pulled the trigger by around November time, December, really early on, we would have been fine, wouldn't have been in this mess. We would have finished mid-table because Frank Lampard's record, I think he got more points than Benitez in less games, which just tells you everything you need to know. So I think hopefully we give him till the end of the season. I'd like to think so anyway. I want him as long as possible. So we'll see, man. We'll see.
The thing that would worry me as an Everton fan, if I was one, is I thought until about last week, Everton would be fine. I thought Lampard would definitely keep them up. They'll probably finish, 13th, 14th, maybe 12th, somewhere where we normally see the Palace, Southamptons, all them. Then Lampard in pre-season came out and was like, these players just are not good enough.
Yeah.
And we're going to be exactly where we were last year, pretty much, more or less, not the exact words, implying that they're going to struggle again. And if I was a fan and I was listening to that, I'd panic.
But if I was a player and I was listening to that, I'd be a bit sort of put out, I think, as well. So I don't know where my head would be.
Yeah.
Well, can I just say about that quote? I think it was a message to Mashori because there's been a bit of a disagreement in the past week between Mashori and Frank Lampard because Mashori has promised things that he hasn't delivered on, such as bringing in new players and giving him funds to actually buy players. So it's all just part of it's all part of the politics of football, isn't it? He's going to press Mashori to buy, and Mashori's going to go, no, you've got these players finish where we need you to finish. So it's all going to be a bit political, sort of going up into the end of the transfer window. And I think there's some positives. Maybe Delhi will do well this year. You know, it's hard to say, man. Because
sure.
you know what? I'm gonna tell you now. I think Alex, you mentioned Rondon, didn't you, before?
No,
Sam. Yeah, I don't know. One of you two mentioned Rondon, and I'll tell you a bit about Rondon. If you don't know, I am owner of Rondon FC, so we are a big fan of Rondon.
Okay.
But
sweet.
I've been a little bit biased, and I think I've not even been too wrong about it, because normally I joke about how good Rondon is this or the other way. I know he's not a good striker. I know he's not going to get more than 10 goals and assists per year. But he is genuinely in pre-season looked better than Dominic Calvert-Lewin. And I'm not even trying to take the mick there. You can ask any Everton fan, and I would argue it with whoever you want. Rondon's actually getting into the spaces where Dominic Calvert-Lewin is not, and he's at least trying to get a goal. I'm really concerned about Dominic Calvert-Lewin's growth, because he genuinely is non-existent in games. He doesn't get into the spaces we need him to. And every time he gets the ball, he always loses it with his first touch. And that tells you everything you need to know about going into the season. I think the main problem at Everton at the moment is goals and not getting enough goals. And that's why I didn't mention any defenders, because I think if we just outscore every opponent, as Michael Owen would say, you'd win the game, wouldn't you? You know what I mean?
Well,
so you would win. Like, this is I don't care about what the defense is like. I just need goals, and we're not getting enough goals. So we need players like Cornet and Gibbs White, you know, who put up brilliant numbers last year, considering their position, to get some goals for us. And that's how we'd survive relegation, is by getting in these new players who will replace Dominic Calvert-Lewin, because he's not good enough anymore. Sorry to say, unless Lampard gets a tune out of him somehow, I just don't see it happening. So yeah.
It's good to hear, though, because
a damning judgment.
A lot of people would come out and say, all right, give Dominic Calvert-Lewin another season, give him some time. But I know, you know, we've got an Englishman on our show today, but it is the English tax, and it's coming back. And I don't think, to be honest, there's too much difference as far as the quality of Rondon and Calvert-Lewin, if I'm being honest.
Mate, I can't disagree. Normally, I'd be fuming at you about a year ago. I'd be like, what are you talking about?
I wouldn't have said it a year ago. I wouldn't have said it, because he came out the blocks. He was flying out the blocks, but now I think he's sort of exposed himself. But we'll see. I'm going to be proven wrong again come, you know, Christmas, where he's bagged the most goals.
He's that golden boot now. Alex is literally
now
I've said it. Terrible.
He will win the golden boot, and you will stay up. So there we are.
Yeah,
there's something.
There we are. Right. I think we are out of time. So, Kieran, I want you to put your neck on the line before the season starts. Can you give us a table prediction for where Everton will finish?
No, funnily enough, I did do a prem predictions, like sort of, you know, the app you can do where you can do all the fixtures.
Yeah.
Somehow Everton came 11th. I don't know how that was. So I'm going to take them down 4 places and put them 15th. Below them, I'm going to put Bournemouth, Fulham, Forest, Brentford, and Southampton. And I think that's 15th, maybe 14th.
Yeah,
14th, 15th. Below those teams, above those teams, that's where I think we'll finish.
There we are. Well, Everton fans, if you're listening, drop us a tweet. Let us know where you think they're going to finish. At Send Him Off Pod.
Are you looking forward to the season after this? I'm sure you are.
Seething with, teeming with enthusiasm after listening. Kieran, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for joining.
Coming on, pal.
Do you want to take a couple of seconds just to more than a couple of seconds,
we're generous on this podcast.
Plug the old social medias where people can find you.
Yeah, just on YouTube, TikTok. I mostly use YouTube and TikTok, so follow me there, Kieran Rants. On YouTube, we do the watch-alongs for every Everton game. We do daily shows, a bit of FIFA here and there as well. On the TikTok, if you want me to banter your favourite team, make sure you go over to my TikTok. I banter Liverpool fans every single day of the week. So if you want a bit of that, go over to the TikTok as well.
But there we are. You can definitely come back as long as you don't banter Swansea.
You know what? I'm sorry to say for you. I'm really trying there. So, yeah. No, it's been a pleasure, lads. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers mate. Appreciate it. We'll be back, guys, with whichever one's next.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's going to be don't even bother.
There's no order. Yeah. They're just coming out as they're coming out, as and when we edit them. So join us for the next pre-season preview, and if you don't, then enjoy the season.
Yeah, enjoy
the season.
There we are.
Right. Ta-ra. Take care.
See you later.